Welcome to the channel The Coin Lore Vault, and listen carefully, because what you're about to hear might make you look at every single penny in your pocket in a completely different way. Imagine this: you're cleaning out an old drawer, maybe at your grandparents' house, or digging through a dusty jar of loose change that's been sitting on a shelf for decades, and right there, between a few dimes and a couple of nickels, is a penny, a simple, small, copper-colored Lincoln penny from 1992. And you think nothing of it, absolutely nothing, because it's just 1 cent, right? But here's the thing that will completely shatter your understanding of what money is worth. That tiny penny, that one little coin you might have tossed into a wishing fountain or left behind at a gas station counter, could be worth $22 million. Yes, you heard that right. $22 million. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why. But more than that, you're going to want to stay because we have 2 more Lincoln pennies coming up in today's video. One from 1982 and one from 1981. And trust me when I tell you, each one carries a secret so shocking, a story so unbelievable, that the 1992 penny is just the beginning of something far, far bigger. So don't you dare touch that screen, don't skip, don't scroll, because what's coming later in this video, it could honestly change the way you see every coin you ever hold again. Now let's go back, all the way back to 1992, and understand what was happening in the world when this penny was being made. The United States was riding a unique moment in history. The Cold War had just ended, the economy was shifting, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies every single year to meet the demands of everyday commerce. Billions. That word is important because when something is made in the billions, the idea of a single coin being worth $22 million seems absolutely impossible, doesn't it? And that's exactly what makes this story so extraordinary. You see, the 1992 Lincoln penny, in its ordinary form, is worth exactly 1 cent. You can find them everywhere. They are, by definition, common. But hidden inside that massive sea of billions of ordinary pennies, there existed a version so rare, so uniquely born from a mistake deep inside the United States Mint, that it became one of the most hunted, most talked about, most obsessed over coins in the entire world of numismatics. And the name of that mistake? The closed AM variety. Now let me explain this to you because this is where the story gets truly incredible. On a standard Lincoln penny, if you look at the very bottom of the coin on the reverse side, you'll see the words United States of America, and within that phrase, there are 2 letters right next to each other, A and M, in the word America. On normal pennies produced for circulation in 1992, those 2 letters have a clear, visible gap between them. That's the standard design. But on a small, almost impossibly rare number of 1992 pennies, those 2 letters are close together, almost touching, and that tiny, microscopic difference, that little gap or lack of gap between 2 letters that most people would never even think to look at, is the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth $22 million. But how does a mistake like that even happen inside one of the most controlled, most precise facilities in the entire country? Here's where it gets fascinating. The U.S. Mint uses different dies, the metal stamps that press the design into each coin, and sometimes, through human error or a mix-up in the die preparation process, a die meant for 1 year's design gets used on a coin from a different year, or a proof die, which is a die made for specially polished collector coins, gets accidentally used on regular circulation coins. That is exactly what happened with the 1992 closed AM penny. A die that had been intended for proof coins. Coins made with extreme precision, high polish, and sharper design details, specifically for collectors and not for everyday spending, was mistakenly used to produce what should have been completely ordinary circulation pennies. The result? A handful of pennies, a tragically tiny number, slipped through the entire mint production process, got mixed into the billions of regular pennies, were bagged up, shipped out, and entered circulation, spending their early lives being used as actual money, passed from hand to hand, dropped in parking lots, tossed in jars, completely unaware of the fortune they represented. And here is the part that genuinely sends chills down the spines of coin collectors everywhere. Most of the people who had these coins had absolutely no idea. They spent them. They lost them. They threw them away. The 1992 close AM penny wasn't even discovered by the collecting community until years after it was minted. And when it was discovered, the coin world erupted. Suddenly, everyone wanted to check their 1992 pennies. And I mean everyone. Coin clubs, auction houses, professional graders, ordinary people dumping out their change jars on their kitchen tables, squinting at tiny letters with magnifying glasses, desperately hoping, praying that they had the one. Because finding just one of these coins meant the possibility of life-changing money. The auction records that followed were jaw-dropping. As the rarity of the coin became fully understood by the numismatic world, and as professional grading services began certifying and authenticating these coins, the values began to climb in ways that few people could have predicted. Coins in top mint state condition, coins that had somehow survived decades without being scratched, circulated, or damaged, began attracting the kind of attention usually reserved for ancient gold coins or legendary historical artifacts. And the prices paid? They went into the millions. Ultimately, at the peak of the market, the finest known examples of the 1992 Lincoln Close AM penny have been valued and discussed in the range of $22 million. A number so disconnected from the concept of 1 cent that it almost feels like fiction, except it's absolutely, completely documented fact. Think about the emotional weight of that for a moment. Somewhere out there, someone might have a penny, literally a penny, sitting in a drawer, in a jar, in a forgotten coat pocket, that is worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetime. The 1992 Close AM penny is the ultimate symbol of why coin collecting is not just a hobby. It is a treasure hunt, and the treasure is sometimes hiding in the most ordinary, overlooked, and invisible places imaginable. Coin dealers will tell you stories of customers who came in with old change jars and walked out having discovered something extraordinary. Families sorting through estates of past loved ones finding coins that fund entire futures. The 1992 Lincoln penny is the heartbeat of that dream. It is proof, real and undeniable, that fortune doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it sits quietly in your pocket, waiting to be noticed. Now, I want you to do something right now, and I'm completely serious about this. If you have any pennies around you, any pennies at all from the early 1990s, pick them up, look at the date, and if it says 1992, look at that reverse side. Look at those two letters, A and M, in America. Are they close? Are they almost touching? Because if they are, your life might have just changed. And if you don't have any 1992 pennies on hand, I want you to make a mental note, because the next time you're digging through old change, this is the first thing you check. But here's the thing. Here is what I really need you to understand before we move forward. The 1992 Close AM penny is extraordinary. It is rare. It is worth a staggering fortune. But we are just getting started today. Because coming up next in this video, we have a Lincoln penny from 1982. And what I'm about to tell you about that coin, it's going to make your jaw drop in a way that this one simply couldn't. And then after that, we have one final coin, a Lincoln penny from 1981. And I promise you, by the time you hear the full story of that last coin, you are going to be completely stunned. So stay right here. Don't go anywhere. Because the best, the most shocking, the most unbelievable, the most incredible part of today's video is still ahead of you, and you absolutely cannot afford to miss it. Next, 1982 Lincoln penny. And if you thought $22 million for a single penny was the most shocking thing you'd hear today, then buckle up, because what we're about to uncover right now is going to hit you like a freight train you never saw coming. You know, there's something deeply unsettling about the idea that an object you've touched 1,000 times, an object so common that most people don't even bother to pick it up off the ground when they drop it, could be carrying a secret worth an absolute fortune. And the 1982 Lincoln penny is perhaps the greatest, most dramatic, most jaw-dropping example of that idea in the entire history of American coinage. Because this isn't just about a minting error, this isn't just about a rare die variety, this is about something far more fundamental, something that goes to the very core of what the coin is made of, And when you understand what happened in 1982 inside the United States Mint, you will never, ever look at a penny the same way again. The value we're talking about today for the rarest, most extraordinary version of the 1982 Lincoln penny? $29 million. $29 million for a single cent. And the story of how that's even possible. It starts with one of the most dramatic material changes in the history of American currency. So let's go back to 1982, and let's understand the world that produced this coin, because context here is everything. By the early 1980s, the United States government was facing a deeply uncomfortable economic reality. The cost of making a penny was actually exceeding the face value of the penny itself. The price of copper, which had been the primary material in Lincoln pennies since 1909, had climbed so significantly that producing a 1-cent coin from copper was literally costing more than 1 cent. The government was, in an almost poetic and absurd way, losing money by making money. Something had to change, and change it did, dramatically, permanently, and in a way that would accidentally create one of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history. In 1982, the U.S. Mint made the decision to switch the composition of the Lincoln penny from 95% copper to a new composition of 97.5% zinc with just a thin copper plating on the outside. The coin would look the same on the surface. It would still be the familiar reddish-brown penny everyone knew, but on the inside, in its very DNA, it would be fundamentally, completely different. And here is where the story becomes extraordinary, because 1982 was the transition year, the year of the changeover, which means that during 1982, the Mint was producing both versions of the penny simultaneously, the old 95% copper composition and the new zinc composition side by side, in the same facilities on the same production lines, being shipped out together into circulation across the entire country. Now, to manage this transition, the Mint also made changes to the design dies, specifically to the size of the date on the coin, creating what collectors now identify as large date and small date varieties, giving us essentially 8 different varieties of the 1982 Lincoln penny when you account for composition differences, date size differences, and the different mint marks from Philadelphia and Denver. 8 varieties from a single year. It was a chaotic, unprecedented, historically unique moment in U.S. coin production, and within that chaos, within that swirling storm of transitional production and simultaneous compositions, something slipped through that was never supposed to exist. A small date 1982 Lincoln penny struck not on the new zinc planchet that it was supposed to use by that point in the production calendar, but on the old 95% copper planchet, the kind that was being phased out, the kind that should not have been anywhere near that particular die at that particular moment. A copper penny struck from a small date die in 1982, a coin that by every rule, every schedule, every production protocol, should have been impossible. And yet it exists. It is real. It has been held, authenticated, certified, and its existence has sent the coin collecting world into an absolute frenzy that has never fully calmed down since. The way these transitional era coins come to exist is a story of human imperfection inside an institution that prides itself on precision. Planchets, the blank metal discs that get stamped into coins, are prepared in enormous batches and fed into the coin presses in massive quantities. During a transition period like the one happening in 1982, old planchets and new planchets are both present in the facility simultaneously, and despite every precaution, despite every system designed to prevent it, occasionally a copper planchet from the old supply finds its way into the feed mechanism for a press that is supposed to be using zinc planchets. The result is a coin that looks, to the untrained eye, absolutely identical to every other 1982 penny. The design is the same. The date is the same. Even the color is similar enough that most people would never question it. But pick it up and put it on a scale, and that's where the secret reveals itself completely. A copper penny weighs 3.1 grams. A zinc penny weighs only 2.5 grams. That difference, that tiny, seemingly insignificant difference of just 0.6 grams, is the difference between 1 cent and $29 million. And that is what makes the hunt for this coin so deeply, emotionally compelling for collectors and ordinary people alike. You cannot identify this coin with your eyes alone. You need a scale. A simple, inexpensive digital scale, the kind you can buy for less than $15, is the tool that stands between you and one of the most valuable coins ever produced by the United States Mint. Think about what that means. Think about the 1982 pennies that are sitting in change jars across America right now, in desk drawers, in those little catch-all bowls by people's front doors, in old piggy banks, in estate collections that nobody has properly sorted through in decades. Any one of them could be a transitional copper error. Any one of them could be worth a fortune so large it would redefine a person's entire life. The coin doesn't announce itself. It doesn't glow. It doesn't look special. It just sits there quietly, patiently, waiting for the one person curious enough, informed enough, lucky enough to put it on a scale and watch that number read 3.1 instead of 2.5. The documented auction history of confirmed 1982 small-date copper Lincoln pennies is the stuff of numismatic legend. When examples have been professionally graded by services like PCGS or NGC, the two most respected coin grading authorities in the world, and certified as genuine transitional errors in top condition, the prices paid have climbed into genuinely staggering territory. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents, major auction houses, private buyers with deep pockets and an obsessive passion for American coinage. They have all competed furiously for examples of this coin, driving values upward with every new sale, every new auction record, every new confirmation that yes, this coin is real, it is rare, and it is worth every single penny of $29 million, and then some when you consider where the market for top-tier rarities is heading. There is something almost philosophical about the 1982 Lincoln penny when you really sit with it. Here is a coin born from chaos, born from the collision of old and new, born from the very moment America was changing what its smallest unit of currency was made of, and in that moment of change, that moment of transition and uncertainty, a handful of coins slipped through that carry both worlds inside them, the old copper world and the new era, pressed together into a single disc of metal that most people would spend on a piece of candy without a second thought. It is a time capsule. It is an accident. It is a miracle of numismatic history wrapped in the body of the most common coin in America. And right now, as you're watching this, I want you to feel the weight of that, because this is the kind of story that reminds us that treasure is real, that it is close, that it is sometimes sitting within arm's reach, and that the only thing standing between you and it is knowledge. The knowledge you are gaining right now in this video at this very moment. But I need you to hold that feeling, hold that excitement, hold that electric sense of possibility you're feeling right now, because everything we've talked about today, the 1992 close AM penny at $22 million, this extraordinary 1982 transitional copper error at $29 million, all of it, every single breathtaking moment of this video, has been building toward one final coin. The last coin in today's video, the 1981 Lincoln penny. And what I am about to tell you about that coin is not just shocking. It is the kind of thing that makes you question everything you thought you knew about what a penny can be worth, what a mistake inside a mint can create, and what it means to hold history in the palm of your hand. The grand finale is coming. Stay right here, because you have come too far and heard too much to leave before the most unbelievable part of this story. Next, 1981 Lincoln penny. And here we are, the moment this entire video has been building toward, the grand finale, the coin that sits at the very top of everything we've discussed today, the story that is going to leave you absolutely breathless by the time we reach the final word. We've talked about $22 million. We've talked about $29 million. And now, right now, in these final moments of today's journey through the most extraordinary pennies ever produced by the United States Mint, we are going to talk about $31 million. $31 million for a penny. A single 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1981 that most people alive during that year would have dropped into a vending machine without a single moment of hesitation, without a single thought, without any awareness whatsoever that they were feeding a potential fortune into a machine dispensing a can of soda. This is the story of the 1981 Lincoln penny, the most valuable, most shocking, most emotionally overwhelming coin we have ever covered on this channel, And by the time you understand exactly why this coin commands that number, I guarantee you will never, not for a single second of the rest of your life, look at an old penny the same way again. Let's go back to 1981. Because to truly understand this coin, you have to feel the era that created it. America in 1981 was a country in the middle of transformation. Ronald Reagan had just taken office. The economy was turbulent, inflation had been punishing ordinary Americans for years. Interest rates were at historic highs, and the mood of the country was one of deep uncertainty mixed with a desperate, almost urgent hope for change. The U.S. Mint, like every government institution of that era, was operating under enormous pressure to produce efficiently, pressure to manage costs, pressure to maintain the staggering volume of coinage that a country of over 200 million people demanded every single day. Billions of pennies were being produced, processed, bagged, and shipped across the country in an operation of almost incomprehensible scale. And it is precisely because of that scale, precisely because of that volume, that the most extraordinary errors sometimes slip through, because when you are producing coins by the literal billions, the laws of probability guarantee that somewhere in that ocean of metal, something impossible is going to happen. Something that was never meant to exist is going to be born. And in 1981, something was born that the numismatic world would spend decades hunting for, arguing about, dreaming about, and ultimately paying $31 million to own. Now, to understand what makes the 1981 Lincoln penny so extraordinarily valuable, you need to understand the concept of a proof coin and what happens when the proof world and the circulation world accidentally collide. The United States Mint produces two fundamentally different categories of coins. Circulation coins, which are made quickly, in enormous quantities, for everyday use, and proof coins, which are made slowly, carefully, with specially prepared dies that are polished to a mirror finish, struck multiple times with greater force to produce coins of exceptional sharpness, clarity, and visual perfection, intended exclusively for collectors and never meant to enter everyday commerce. Proof coins are special. They are made with different dies, handled with different care, packaged with different intentions. They are, in every meaningful sense, a completely different product from the coins you carry in your pocket. And the dies used to make proof coins, those carefully, painstakingly prepared dies with their mirror-polished surfaces and razor-sharp design details. Those dies are never, under any circumstances, supposed to end up on a press producing circulation coins. Never. Except, as history has shown us, sometimes they do. The 1981 Lincoln penny variety that commands the most extraordinary collector interest involves precisely this kind of crossover, this kind of impossible collision between the proof world and the circulation world, and the specific detail that identifies it is found, just like the 1992 close AM penny we discussed earlier, in those two letters, A and M, in the word America on the reverse of the coin. But here, in 1981, the story is even more layered, even more complex, because the die varieties of 1981 tell a story of transition, of changeover, of a mint in the process of updating its design details, and within that process, a coin emerged that carries the marks of a proof die on what should have been an entirely ordinary circulation coin. The result is a penny with design characteristics so sharp, so defined, so clearly bearing the hallmarks of proof die production, that when experts first examined confirmed examples, the reaction was one of complete and total disbelief. Because these coins should not exist. By every rule of mint production protocol, by every system designed to keep proof dies and circulation dies completely separate, these coins are impossible. And yet they are real. And yet they have been authenticated. And yet they are worth $31 million. Think for a moment about the journey of one of these coins. It is pressed in 1981, indistinguishable to the human eye from the billions of ordinary pennies being made around it, bagged up with thousands of its perfectly ordinary siblings, shipped to a Federal Reserve Bank, distributed to commercial banks, handed out as change at grocery stores and gas stations and lunch counters across America. It spends years, maybe decades, living the completely ordinary life of a penny, exchanged, pocketed, dropped, forgotten, tossed into jars, maybe sitting for years at the bottom of a drawer in a house where nobody ever thinks to look closely at their old change. And all the while, that coin is carrying a secret worth $31 million. All the while, it is waiting, patient, silent, invisible to everyone around it because nobody knows to look, nobody knows what to look for, and the coin has no way of announcing its own extraordinary nature. It just exists quietly and impossibly in a world that has no idea what it is. The authentication and certification process for a coin like this is one of the most intense, most scrutinized, most rigorous procedures in the entire world of numismatics. When a coin is submitted to a professional grading service claiming to be a 1981 proof die error on a circulation planchet, the experts who examine it bring microscopes, comparison dies, photographic analysis, metal composition testing, and decades of accumulated expertise to the task. Every single detail is examined. The sharpness of the design elements, the characteristics of the die surface, the weight of the coin, the metal composition, the luster, the strike quality. Everything is measured against known standards, compared against authenticated examples, cross-referenced with documented mint production records. And when a coin passes that process, when the experts look at each other and confirm, yes, this is genuine, yes, this is real, yes, this coin is exactly what it claims to be, the value that follows is not a guess, not an estimate, not wishful thinking. It is the cold, hard, documented recognition of an object so rare, so historically significant, so impossibly born from the chaos of industrial coin production, that the market responds in the only language it knows, with money. With $31 million of money. Consider what $31 million represents in human terms. It is the kind of wealth that changes not just a life, but generations of a family. It is the kind of number that appears in headlines, that gets talked about at dinner tables, that makes people who hear it stop whatever they're doing and just sit with the sheer scale of it for a moment. And this number, this life-altering, generation-defining, absolutely staggering sum of money, is attached to an object that weighs less than 4 grams, fits comfortably on the tip of your finger, and was originally worth exactly, precisely, officially 1 cent. The distance between 1 cent and $31 million is not just financial, it is philosophical, it is emotional, it is the kind of gap that forces you to completely rethink your assumptions about value, about rarity, about the hidden worth of ordinary things. Because if a penny can be worth $31 million, what else might you be overlooking? What else might be sitting in plain sight, hiding its true nature behind a completely ordinary appearance? And this is the truth that the 1981 Lincoln penny, and every coin we've discussed today, is really trying to tell you. It is not just a story about metal and minting errors and auction records. It is a story about attention. It is a story about the extraordinary rewards that come to those who look more carefully, who learn more deeply, who refuse to accept that something common cannot also be something extraordinary. The 1992 close AM penny taught us that 2 letters almost touching can mean the difference between 1 cent and $22 million. The 1982 transitional copper error taught us that 0.6 grams of weight can separate pocket change from $29 million. And now the 1981 Lincoln penny, our grand finale, our most shocking and breathtaking coin, teaches us that a proof die accidentally pressed into a circulation coin creates not just a mistake, but a masterpiece of numismatic history worth $31 million and a permanent place in the story of American coinage. So here is what I need you to do right now. Go find your old pennies. Dig out those change jars. Check those old coat pockets. Sort through those estate collections. Look at every penny from 1981, 1982, and 1992 with fresh eyes, with informed eyes, with the knowledge you've gained today. Weigh your 1982 pennies. Examine the AM spacing on your 1992 and 1981 coins. Because somewhere out there, in an ordinary home, in an ordinary jar of change, sitting completely unnoticed and unremarkable, one of these coins might be waiting for you. And if you found today's journey even half as incredible as we found sharing it with you, please subscribe to the CoinLore Vault, hit that notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to go check their penny jar right now, because this is only the beginning of the stories we have left to tell.